Good morning. This is Julie Livingston from Want Leverage Communications for another episode of PR Patter. I'm having some technical difficulties and I will be back in a minute. Okay, here we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Livingston from Want Leverage Communications here for another episode of PR Patter, my semi-weekly show where I talk to the amazing people from across my marketing and public relations network. If you like what you see today, please go to my website at wantleverage.com and download my free tip sheet, How to Make Your C-Suite Stand Out on LinkedIn. It's got some great tips and takeaways for you so that you can leverage the power of your LinkedIn platform more effectively. Today, I'm delighted to have on the show Lori Christensen. She's an MBA and a project management professional, a B2B marketing leader with deep experience in demand generation, lead generation, sales enablement, and content development as both a corporate marketer and independent consultant. Great to see you, Lori.
Well, thanks for having me, Julie.
Lori is the founder and president of B2B Marketing Strategies, LLC, a fractional CMO services firm that focuses on developing and managing marketing and growth strategies to help companies reach their business goals. Her consulting practice specializes in serving SMBs in the technology and industrial sectors, including manufacturing, distribution, and industrial services, as well as the trade show, conferences, and events sectors. She has worked with digital agencies that serve B2B clients and created targeted content for enterprise technology companies like Red Hat and Google Cloud. Great to see you, Lori, and thanks again for making the time to be with me today.
Sure.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your backstory and how you got to start your company and, how you got to where you are today?
Excuse me. Well, about 12 years ago, I've been doing this for about 8 to 12 years. And I was a marketing director for a company called Interline Brands. And they had a change in executive leadership. And I was on a board of directors of the Security Hardware Distributors Association and had a lot of companies in the industry that I knew and had good relationships with. So when was downsized from that organization, a lot of these companies that I was on the board with reached out to me, and they were small to mid-sized security hardware and security distributors and manufacturers, and they wanted me to do consulting work with them. And so thus I thought, this could be nice. It's fun. It's challenging. I'm helping people solve problems with marketing and sales. And that kind of launched my career. I decided to form my own LLC. And there were a lot of organizations that had various challenges in marketing. And it could range from having a team and not knowing how to right size it and get it to achieve the business growth goals you're looking for, or how to right size an organization and maybe outsource some of the services, or how to start a new marketing function. So that kind of launched my career in what I do today.
That's such a great story. What a feather in your cap that they approached you when there was a change happening.
Sometimes if you're open, good things just happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. So how does one assess first of all, tell us what a fractional CMO does.
So a fractional CMO, and this is I would say 10 to 12 years ago, the word fractional was a kind of a
I was going to say, did it
right?
even exist really?
Right. It existed, but there weren't that many of them. There were, people mainly hired full-time marketing people or maybe outsourced something to an agency. But I would say in the last 5 to 8 years, probably the last 5 years, fractionals become a buzz term of this decade. So there are fractional CEOs, fractional CFOs, which has always been rather common, chief financial officers. There's fractional operations people, marketing people. It's become a very popular function, primarily because I think companies really seek a new perspective on their
Oh, it's so
business.
valuable.
And it really is, because when companies are, again, it depends on what stage the company's at. It could be a brand new organization, a startup, a mature organization, but you can get the industry expertise to solve business challenges without taking on a full-time um, executive. Or maybe they want to try before they buy. They don't know if that executive will be a good fit with the organization. Sometimes they've hired people in the past. It hasn't worked out. So they're maybe a little shy about, what exactly do we need? And it gives them an opportunity to look at their business through a new
Yeah, and
lens.
I would imagine that in some cases also, the fractional person has specialty expertise that within the marketing area, right? Because marketing
Mhm.
is so gigantic, right? Covers such a huge spectrum of responsibilities and roles that it's so valuable to bring in that person with a specialty expertise, perhaps in your industry or
Mhm.
manufacturing, etc. Um, for a
Right.
limited amount of time.
And sometimes it's very hard to find
Yeah.
those people, and it's hard to attract them. And if for a mid-sized organization that maybe doesn't have the budget or the desire to invest a ton in marketing, they're not quite sure what they need and want. A fractional is a perfect solution. They can look at the business through a new lens. They may have very specific expertise in some area of manufacturing, like semiconductors, or any type of manufacturing or distribution, and it allows them to look and say, this is really what you need to get your business to where you want to be growing, and this is what you need to invest in. And from there, the leadership, the CEO, can determine how much they want to invest, plan, and maybe either start up a marketing function or continue to retain the CFO for an extended period of time so that the fractional CMO can help build that function. So those are some of the reasons why these companies would want to hire a fractional such
So
as
what
myself.
might the process be for assessing your organization's needs based on, what stage of business you're in and what your goals are?
Well, I think the first thing is they would want to find a, a resource. Um, they would want to, look at hiring, um, a fractional CMO, but they also want to look at the business stage. So if they're a startup, maybe they want to focus on developing a product or service or building the customer base. If they're in the growth stage, they maybe want to scale their operations and increase their market share. They could be in mature organizations. Many
Right.
manufacturing companies are, in which case they'd want to optimize or be more competitive. Maybe they're looking at certain competitors within the market that they want to, emulate in some way, and also differentiating themselves in the market. Or maybe they want to innovate or start a new product line.
Right.
But
Sure.
having very, really looking at their goals first. They may have short-term goals, long-term goals. Maybe they want to get more leads or start in and have the marketing work more closely with the sales division. Um, and then long-term goals could be market expansion, brand development. Maybe they want to relaunch a brand or get more online presence. But doing a good SWOT analysis is always a good start to really be honest about your strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats. And then evaluating key functional areas. You know, is the sales organization in position to really support
Right.
marketing? That's a key part. Prioritizing needs, making sure you develop a plan, and then, regularly assess. But those are some of the factors that they would want to consider based on their stage.
What about internal communication? Because a lot of organizations, even SMBs, including SMBs, have silos within their
Yes.
organization, and oftentimes I have found in leading marketing teams myself that there could be a lack of communication between those individual, departments or teams. What should be in place in order to optimize the opportunity to have a fractional CMO come in?
I find one of the biggest challenges is having sales and marketing work together. I think sometimes CEOs make the
Interesting.
mistake of thinking that they are more tied more closely together.
Or
Um,
naturally synergistic, right?
right, but they're not always. And sales has a tendency to blame marketing for lack of sales. They're not doing enough emails. They're not doing enough communications, right? Which is a form of communications. They're not supporting us in the right way.
Right.
And then marketing saying, oh, they're not following up on the leads, or they're not, you know, uh, the messaging isn't right. So I think the key is having accountability for marketing qualified leads, for instance, and sales qualified leads. And marketing's job in the communications is to get the messaging and the brand right to make it easier for sales to sell. Because many times sales has too many messages, and an inconsistent brand that looks not professional, I should say. Um, and I think also having it, like, for instance, on the communications and writing side, I've worked with organizations that marketing has um, populated a tool called RFP Force that is a tie, an add-on to Salesforce, so that you can get professionally done proposals that have consistent branding, well written, well put together, and the salespeople can choose the right projects to populate it with. So there's so many communications tools that the sales team can do. Um, implement with the help of marketing.
That's great to know. What are the benefits between having, I mean, there's some obvious benefits, but what are some of the other benefits between having a fractional CMO or a full-time hire?
Well, the benefits of a fractional are, obviously it's more cost effective. You don't have benefits, you don't have, uh, you know, the cost of a full-time CEO or I'm sorry, fractional CMO. Um, and it's a lot of times it's good for startups or businesses that aren't quite sure what they want. Sometimes I've found companies who have retained me have been uh, may have maybe a little trigger shy with marketing. And I'll say this because many times they'll hire agencies that aren't really delivering what they're supposed to be delivering, or the CEO is too busy to manage these
Right.
agencies. It could be a social media agency, a digital agency, what have you. And they're not fully leveraging it. No one's really managing it. So they may say, oh, we've spent a ton on marketing, haven't gotten anything. So many times you need somebody to manage that. If you don't have full-time marketing staff, you need somebody within the C-suite, such as a fractional CMO, who can report on that and manage these agencies and make sure they're delivering what they're supposed to, or changing agencies. So that would be another reason. Access to expertise. It could be within the industry or
Yep.
very specific type of skill set they're looking for. Flexibility to scale up and down. They may say, oh, we need somebody 3 days a week to start on retainer, but we'd like to change that as once we get the right hire.
Sure. Right.
Um, reduced risk. Obviously, you don't
There's
have
so
to.
much
Yeah,
flexibility, right? Like you were just
right,
saying, you could start at 3 days a week, then you could bump it up or scale it back, whatever
right.
whatever you need. It's flexible.
And you make sure they're the right cultural fit.
Yeah. Oh,
Sometimes
that's
they
very
don't go till
important.
somebody's in, right.
That's great. And how do you assess that though? That's kind of tough if they're the right cultural fit.
Well, it's kinda like trying before you buy. They may want to hire somebody full-time, but they the cultural fit is somebody that needs to work well with the sales directors, um, is collaborative, um, is is a good cultural fit in terms of maybe they have existing staff
Right,
that they
right,
really value. Um, and you don't want maybe they don't want somebody who's coming in and saying, "Oh, we need to get rid of this one and that one," because maybe they've been employees for 30 years,
right,
but they don't know how to utilize them. Maybe they belong in marketing, maybe they belong somewhere else. I have found that many times organizations want to take a square peg and put it in a round hole. Oh, well, this person was a secretary. Let's put them in marketing and have them do this.
right.
Maybe that's not always the right fit. Maybe there's another place in the organization where they'd be a better fit.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
right. So those are some of the considerations. But if you hire somebody full time, you get the dedicated focus. It is a long term investment, but you're investing in the future. You want to build up the organization and have that person head it up. Um, you there's helps foster quicker relationships with other C-suite people, like the fractional CMO, if they're a full-time hire, would be able to work more closely, say, with finance to integrate, bring on new technologies and integrate that and report up to the C-suite. It's a stronger focus, but it's also an investment.
Right. That's right. Long-term investment.
Right, a long-term
Yeah.
investment.
So, how do you find the right fractional CMO for an organization? Like, is the best place to look on LinkedIn, or like how do you find that person?
Well, I think there's several tools that I would kind of recommend. The first one would be uh, finding, using the industry. So if you're going to an industry trade show, you can ask around. Many times, these fractional folks will go to trade shows and be more visible in the industry. Um, there are other consultants that may know. A lot of times sales leaders will know, or there'll be somebody in the industry that's pretty well known. So it's referral using your network. You can go on LinkedIn, and I have seen ads on LinkedIn for fractional CMOs, but on LinkedIn, unless you have a specific recruiter that's looking, again, you're probably not going to get everything on your checklist.
But if your
Um,
profile is optimized, you should have all the keywords in
yes,
your profile if you're a fractional,
right.
so that you would attract those people looking around.
Yep. There's also other platforms like Fractional United that people will go in and look for people within the industry, and there's thousands of. It's on Slack. There's thousands of people on it, but they will reach out and say, looking for a fractional CMO with this industry experience. I'm a fractional CFO. Does anyone have any referrals? So there's platforms like that, in addition to LinkedIn, which I guess would be considered a social networking
Yeah.
platform for fractionals. Um, and there's also recruiters.
So how do you know when you've hired a fractional CMO, let's say, how do you know that it's working? What are some of the signs that organizations can look for to know, like, this is a good fit? We're getting what we need.
Well, I think first of all, to have a very clear vision of what you need. Is it short-term deliverables, getting more leads in? Uh, you know, or is it something more long-term, brand recognition in the marketplace, right? So I would say having very specific idea of what you want delivered, and then being able to measure the deliverables, seeing if it's working. So for instance, if it's lead generation and they're managing an agency, the fractional CMO is managing an agency. Are those leads, are more qualified leads coming in? Is the sales team held accountable to close on more leads? And is it leading to more business? So that it has to be measurable. And if it's a long-term goal, such as like PR, branding, social media, is there more brand recognition in the marketplace? Are customers providing more feedback? Are there surveys that you're issuing that show there's more positive brand recognition and perceptions in the marketplace? KPI tracking, performance reporting.
How do you
All
be
of those are good.
how do you be realistic about these deliverables too? I mean, should you have 30, 60, 90-day goals, 120-day goals? What do you think about that?
I think having those goals are really important. So a good 30-day goal is to develop a marketing plan for the organization based on what the CEO is looking to achieve, with costs to implement those, and tools and investments. And then based on that, they determine what their priorities going forward. So in 60 and 90 days, a budget for the plan, or start to enact the plan within 90 days. But some of these goals are long-term goals, like
Right, of
branding and
course.
content and all of that. So if you want quick results, hiring a branding agency, I mean, all these things take time. When I've implemented branding, I mean, if you are an industrial and you have trucks on the road, those trucks have to be rebranded. Signage has
That
to be
takes time.
done. Website has to be done. It's these aren't things that happen overnight.
So how do you set up those expectations with the client up front?
The first thing I usually do within the first engagement is to develop a plan of where they are today and where they need to
But
go. And then based on CEO leadership, they have to determine where they want to invest, because it takes, the CFO has to be involved. It takes all buy-in from all parts of the C-suite, because these frequently, unless they're hiring me for a very specific project to get done and they know exactly what they want on a broader scope, these are all take investment. They have to be willing to invest in marketing.
yeah, that's great. Lori, this has been so informative. I feel like I have like a checklist in my mind now of what I need to look at if I were to hire a fractional CMO. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
And
much,
h-
Julie.
and
Really
how can
appreciate
people
it.
get in touch with you? Is the best way on LinkedIn or
Yes, they can look up Lori Christensen Wegener on Wegener. That's my married name, on LinkedIn, or they can go to they can reach me at L Christensen at b2bmarketingstrategiesllc.com. They can contact me on my
that's
website.
great. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of PR Patter. If you like what you saw, go to my website at wantleverage.com and download my free tip sheet, How to Make Your C-Suite Stand Out on LinkedIn. It's got great tips and takeaways for you that you can enact immediately. We'll see you next time on PR Patter.